Hello everyone, I'm back again. I feel like that's becoming my catchphrase now. Hello everyone, back again. Hello everyone, back again. I'm going to read two chapters again today. I've got chapters 15 and 16 coming up. We are, I think, by the end of this, I think we'll be about halfway through the book. So we've still got lots and lots of reading to do, which is lovely. I do hate it when a really good book comes to an end, although you can always go back to the beginning and read it again, can't you? Right, let's go for chapter 15, Ruins. Despite not having eaten any of his eggy-weg, Alfred felt more full of life than ever. As soon as Nanny had locked his door, he leapt out of bed. Instantly, he began his detective work. He made a big pile on the floor of all of his ancient history books. The prince was looking for clues about the markings that had been chalked on the floor of the ballroom. We had the art of the pharaohs, Roman astrology, ancient languages of the world, the origins of chess, Chinese characters and their meanings, a map of the universe, a history of human sacrifice, Greek gods, cave paintings, the worship of evil in medieval Britain, how to get nasty stains off nice floors, and a beginner's guide to strange chalk markings. However much he searched these books and many others, he couldn't crack the code of what he'd seen on the ballroom floor. The boy needed to take another look, and this time copy down what he saw as a reference point. Alfred opened the stationery drawer of his antique desk and grabbed a little notepad and pencil. He stuffed them into his pyjama pocket for safekeeping. The sound of the siren that rang throughout Buckingham Palace for the beginning of that night's curfew couldn't come soon enough. Wee-oo, wee-oo. This was the time when all those inside the palace had to be safely in their rooms in case of an attack from outside. Alfred blew out his candle and shuffled over to the window on his knees. The searchlights that scoured the walls of the palace, looking for intruders, passed by his window much more regularly than normal. It was almost as if the royal guards were waiting for him. Alfred didn't dare risk it. The problem was that the only other way out was the door, but that was locked from the outside. If he were going to carry on his detective work, he'd have to think fast. Hearing the wind whistle through the fireplace, whoosh, Alfred realised this might be the only way out of his bedroom. So he pulled the grate aside and squeezed his skinny little body up into the flue. The flue is the name for the channel, the tunnel that runs up and down on the inside of what we see as being a chimney breast. It was dark and sooty in there, but because the flue had been made of bricks, he could use them to climb up like rungs of a ladder. As his bedroom was on the top floor, it was only a short climb to the roof of Buckingham Palace. When he reached the top, he disturbed some pigeons that were nesting there. Squawk, squawk, squawk! This alerted the royal guards who were keeping watch over London from the roof. Alfred kept himself hidden inside the chimney as one of the fearsome royal guards left his station to take a closer look. When the last pigeon flew out of the chimney top, squawk, 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 the guard returned to his post. Slowly and silently, the boy climbed out of the top of the chimney. For the first time in his life, he was standing on the roof of Buckingham Palace. As dark clouds swirled above him, he looked out across London. Now he had a 360-degree view of the city, a city that he'd studied in books, one that had the most famous skyline in the world. But now it was all in ruins. Alfred thought of what Might had told him, of the poor people down there scurrying around in the dark with little food and no clean water, surviving from day to day. They were people too, but they had been reduced to living like animals. Only because he'd been born a prince was he here in the palace, and they were down there. No wonder there was talk of revolution. Alfred was beginning to think that maybe the revolutionaries weren't the baddies after all. He was determined to do something to help the people of Britain. This was not how the country should be. Then Alfred heard the sound of something flapping in the wind. Flip, flap, flop. Looking up, he saw the flag of the Gryphon on top of the flagpole. How he wanted to tear that flag down and hoist up the Union Jack. One day, he thought, one day. The Union Jack had been a symbol of the country for hundreds of years. Now it was the flag that bound together the revolutionaries, and as such had been outlawed by the Lord Protector. The black clouds in the sky above Buckingham Palace parted, and a huge airship sailed into view. On its side was the same image of the Gryphon. This airship was used by the Lord Protector to control the people outside the palace. Right on cue, the projector on the roof of the palace flickered into life. It beamed a shaft of light onto the envelope at the top of the airship, the part that contained all the gas. The envelope was like a cinema screen. An image of a golden griffin appeared, and then it faded and was replaced by the face of the Lord Protector. "People of Britain," he began, "I, your Lord Protector, have an important announcement." Alfred watched from his hiding place behind the chimney stack. "The revolutionaries struck again last night. St. Paul's Cathedral, a sacred place of worship, was destroyed. This is a new low from a secret organisation that has only brought death and destruction to this land. Sadly, this now calls for extreme measures. After consultation with the King, there is a new law against traitors. Anyone found out on the streets after 8 p.m. will be considered a revolutionary. As such, members of the King's army or the Royal Guards will shoot on sight." Alfred shuddered. This was even more dangerous than he'd thought. He looked across the roofs of London towards Big Ben. The clock on the tower was about to strike 8. "I wish you good night," ended the Lord Protector, as his face flickered to black and the airship disappeared back up into the clouds. Bong, 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 bong. 8 o'clock. Alfred gulped. Might the Royal Guard shoot him on sight too? Alfred scuttled across the palace roof. He found a small hatch which he carefully opened and clambered through. Next, he dangled by his arms for a moment before dropping down to the carpet below. Thud! Now he was back inside the palace, and tonight's adventure could begin. Chapter 16. Spying Through a Keyhole. Buckingham Palace was eerie at the best of times, and especially at night. Alfred made his way down the long, sweeping staircase, treading on each step lightly in case it made a sound. He patted his top pocket. The pad and pencil he needed for taking notes was still there. Phew. As Alfred drew nearer and nearer to the ballroom, he noticed there were some discordant sounds coming from it. Now, discordant means that it's not a nice fluid sound. It means it's lots of different sounds that come from different places and sound a bit robotic. So, when he reached the huge wooden door, he knelt down and peeped through a keyhole. The entire room was illuminated by candles. They had been placed on the floor in some kind of formation, perhaps the shape of a star. It was difficult to tell exactly. Members of the Royal Guard stood to attention as the Lord Protector, with an old red leather-bound book in his hand for reference, was marking the floorboards with chalk. So the Lord Protector was behind those strange markings. Goodness, but what was he drawing or writing? And was that book the mysterious Book of Albion? When the Lord Protector had finished, the wooden floor was covered in chalk markings. Then he gestured to a group of guards who were standing in the corner of the ballroom. On cue, they lifted a tall stone statue from behind them and placed it on the exact spot carefully indicated by the Lord Protector. Alfred immediately recognised it. It was a statue of a beast. Not just any beast. Can you guess which beast it might be? A griffin. Half lion and half eagle, the griffin was a symbol of divine power. a power that is impossible to imagine, a power over life and death, a power to create or destroy the universe. Alfred recognised that a particular stone statue of the Gryphon, it had once sat on the front wall of Buckingham Palace, but like many valuable artefacts, it had been moved to safety inside. Next, the members of the Royal Guard took their positions around the ballroom, like figures on a chessboard. Then, on the Lord Protector's signal, they began to sing. Alfred tuned his ear in as much as he could. It wasn't exactly a song, more of a chant. The noise that they made was unsettling, as if they were conjuring someone from the dead. The Lord Protector began reading aloud from the book. He was speaking in some ancient language. The sound of his voice and the chanting from the Royal Guards grew louder and louder until a figure appeared through the tall double doors at the far end of the ballroom. It was a man, bathed in the light of 1,000 candles burning behind him. He was barefoot, only wearing pyjamas. From his long grey beard, Alfred immediately recognised the man. It was his father, the king. And we'll do chapter 17 next time. I wonder what's going to happen with all of these chalk markings. It seems very bizarre, doesn't it? And I can't wait to find out what that book is and what they are chanting. Could you have a think for next time? What do you think is going to happen next? Can you predict what will happen in the next chapter? Speak to you next time. Bye.